Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. So I had the opportunity to watch The Hobby over the weekend. It's a new documentary. I can't remember the guy's name. John Morgan Fox, who directed it. I think Morgan John Fox, something like that. He is a collector, and he talks. Actually, I watched Danny of Hobby News Daily did an interview with this guy, and he talks about his collecting chops and that he's more of a collector than an investor. I worried. And I think the first 20 minutes of this validated my concern that this was going to be like that documentary, the card documentary that was out a year or so ago. It was not. This was much, much, much better. And last year when I did my review on that documentary, I gave nothing but facts in my review. And I woke up the next morning with 33 messages from the creator, director guy. Man, was he mad at me. He was so mad for simply talking about what he put in his documentary. It was really funny. And then he agreed to come on my channel and then thought better of it. So I don't know, it's fun. This one, I really enjoyed this. And I'm going to get through, the first 20 minutes are rough, just a fair warning. I'm going to talk through some of those things, some of the mistakes that were made. But it is, after those first 20 minutes, about collecting, and I really, really enjoyed it. At the time on IMDb, which is where I rate all movies and TV shows that I watch, it was at a 7.1 out of 10 average. I gave it an 8. And I believe in the wisdom of crowds, and usually I'm right there, or if the IMDb average is 7.1, I'm usually right at 7 as well. But this time I gave it an 8, and now that average has climbed up above 8, which is good to see. I think this was really good. It featured stories, it featured collectors, and not just investors. There were a couple of investors, and there were no big sports card influencers. Jeff Wilson is briefly heard from a couple of times as he's just releasing news about things that were happening, but he wasn't in it. It was just his voice when they were talking about certain things that were happening, and they would snip videos from him. So I'm going to go through here. This was filmed, the interviews were recorded between October of 2021 and March of 2022. So like the last one, it's a couple years old. And it opens with that age-old debate between investing versus collecting. And this is a very old debate. No matter how much we want it to be brand new, it was out there when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. I just wasn't aware of it at the time. I didn't know the term investing as it pertained to cards, even though I did it too. I had the 86 Donruss rated rookie Jose Canseco, and the director here talks about how he thought that card was going to pay for his college, and that was on Hobby News Daily's YouTube channel. So a couple of mistakes here. Actually, there was a voiceover saying that there was a $12.6 million sale, was the most valuable sports card of all time, while they were panning over an 86 Fleer Michael Jordan card. And that never even approached most valuable sports card of all time. As we know, it was the 52 Topps Mantle, and they did correct that later in the movie, much later in the movie documentary. There's also a very heavy PWCC presence, which is really interesting to me because they were banned from eBay in August of 2021, and then just a few months later being interviewed for this documentary. I'm guessing because they had those interviews lined up before they were banned from eBay, and why change? I guess difficult to change probably is my guess. But yeah, Rick Probstein is featured. That's probably the biggest name. He was interviewed, but he was showing off cards that he collects, especially the Jordan 86 Fleer. Backyard Breaks is shown as part of some montages a couple of times. I don't think they were ever interviewed for it. They showed the typical fighting outside of Target from 2021. They showed the G.I. Joe cards that were supposed to be in that Pokemon box. Somehow Steve of BBCE escaped being shown in that clip. They talked about counterfeit cards and LCS break-ins. There was Sports Card Nonsense was heavily featured. I've never listened to that podcast. I'm a member of the Facebook group. It's a complete disaster. Maybe I'll do a video on that Facebook group someday. But the main guy, Mike Giuseppe, I didn't know anything about. I'd never seen him before, and then his buddy there. I don't remember his name. Mike seemed cool. His card. He shows his card collection. It's pretty sick. He had it in the back of his car. He's just pulling them out, setting them down on the back of his car. And he's like, "This is whatever," he said, like $200,000, $300,000 worth of cards. They featured interviews with Heritage Auctions. They talked about the history of cards, which was really cool. I loved seeing the history of cards. And then Sports Card Nonsense in a voiceover, and they had this timeline visual. In a voiceover, Sports Card Nonsense said that Topps bought Bowman in 1965. And I guess the director just believed it and ran with it because there was no fact-checking. Topps bought Bowman in 55, after the 55 Bowman release. Yeah, no fact-checking there. I was surprised and disappointed at that. And I'm adding in photos from my TV here because I can't take screenshots of Amazon on my phone. They just come out black every time. There's some sort of blocker on screenshots. So, I've got photos here. They misspelled exclusive in a visual, which is weird. Like, do you not have a proofreader? Then Bench Clear Media is featured twice. Once talking about how Fanatics is going to destroy the hobby, and then later on talking about how excited they are for Fanatics to take over. They reversed them in the video. So, yeah, it's weird. It wasn't interviews with them. They just grabbed clips from Bench Clear Media with Mike and Ty talking. So, yeah, it's really, they did a lot of fun stuff. Josh Luber, I'd never seen Josh Luber or heard him interviewed. He shows off his collection. Amazing collection. Non-sports stuff too. A lot of non-sports. And classic video games and other collectibles. His background for his interviews was unbelievable. SGC Pete was interviewed a couple times. Then there was a Pokemon YouTuber who was heavily featured from like the first, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes on. And she was really cool. I'm not into Pokemon, but I thought I would watch this person. She has a lot of charisma, a lot of passion for collecting. And she talked about how much her collection is worth. And I was thinking it was going to be millions of dollars. And she was like $100,000 to $150,000, I think she said, which is a lot. It's way more than my collection is worth. But she's not like some wealthy collector, which isn't bad. I mean, at all. But it was just cool to see them featuring a non-investor collector, non-wealthy collector. And I assume she's some kind of influencer in the Pokemon world. But yeah, it was just fun. They showed some behind-the-scenes stuff with her talking with her parents, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good story. The funny part is she was making fun. She doesn't collect sports collectibles. She was making fun of sports collectors for wanting a LeBron game-worn jersey, and then she pretended to smell a card like he's got a dirty jersey in the card. I'm with you there. That's pretty funny. And Giuseppe, I think is how you pronounce his name, says that Larry Bird is the #1 basketball player of all time. I can get behind that. I disagree, but okay, fine. He said, I would sell the house and sell the dogs. Well, one of the dogs, and then I would sell my cards. And he said they were worth $300,000 to $400,000. So I'd gotten that wrong. So big time collector, it sounds like. They show YouTubers ripping wax, as you can imagine. They took YouTube clips. They cover the gambling aspect a little bit, which was good. It was good to see that. Then they had this other sports card influencer on I'd never heard of before, Sharon Chong, I think. She pulls a LaMelo Downtown out of a pack and says it's worth $30,000 to $40,000, maybe. But she's going to hold it for a few years. And this was in 21, I think. I wonder how that worked out for her. She seems to, even though she sells a lot of cards, she seemed to hold on to some pretty big cards that I doubt panned out, at least have so far. And certainly LaMelo could become this amazing, iconic player. He certainly has the talent. He's just not there with his team yet. They talked about grading and how even brand new pack fresh cards aren't always 10s. Good, I love this. They talked about the value difference between 9s and 10s. They had a collector, this really annoyed me. I think this was actually the Danny, Super Duper Danny was the Pokemon influencer. I think it was her. She was examining her graded Pokemon PSA 9, saying she doesn't know why it's not a 10. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in the hobby, is people looking at their graded card and saying, why didn't this grade better? I've got a 9, it should have been a 10. You can't tell. And then she said the grader could have been having a bad day. And this is another thing, like, okay, it's one of those things. It's such a cliche now. Maybe it wasn't at that time when she was interviewed 2.5 years ago. Mike Giuseppe talks about the getting less in value in a box of cards than what you pay, but he says that the entertainment factor makes up for it. He says you're just sitting there with friends opening packs of boxes, or with your child, in a lot of your cases, people who tell me that they love to rip with their kids. And he's right. If you're going to spend $100 on a box of cards and you get $25 worth of cards and $75 worth of entertainment, bonding time, absolutely, you have to factor that in. A lot of people don't. And then back to Sharon Chung, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing her name wrong. She had a Luka rookie priced at $15,000 during his rookie year. Josh Luber really wanted it but didn't buy it. And then Sharon got the offer for $700. She says got an offer for $750,000 the next year, and she still didn't sell it. Ooh, ouch. That is rough. They talked about how we collect for nostalgia. Yes, I love that. And he said, when I hold that card in my hand, I feel good, like I did when I was a kid. Yeah, that's why a lot of us do this. And then at the end of it, before the credits rolled, they had updates at the end of where the market went after they recorded everything. I really enjoyed it. I'm not paid by anybody to share this information. Just a really good documentary. I really enjoyed it. I recommend that you watch it. It's on Amazon. I think I paid $4.99 to rent it. Amazon Prime, or I don't know what we're calling it now. There's Freevee and Prime Video, and it's so hard to keep up with all the streaming services. So strong recommend on this. I'll be curious to know if you've watched it. Let me know in comments. If you're going to, again, let me know in comments. I'll be curious. All right, guys. Thanks very much for watching.